President, please be seated. The court is back in session. The chamber now hands over the floor to the defense teams for the accused, starting first from the defense team for Mr. Nguyen Chia to put questions to this witness. You may now proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honor's Counsel. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. I have some questions that I would like to put to you today. First, I would like to ask you some questions about Moon. Earlier this morning, you said that you yourself had not witnessed any killing of people in the pagoda, and that you had heard this from Moon. Would it be correct if I say that if it wasn't for Moon, you would not have any knowledge as to the question whether the Cham people were killed inside of this wat?
President, please hold on, Mr. Witness. You may now proceed. International Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
I think asking him if is a hypothetical question that's asking the witness to speculate.
I'm not sure if I understand the objection. I'm just trying to establish whether his knowledge of the alleged killing of Cham in Wat Otrokun is only coming from Moon. In other words, the other way around, if it weren't for Moon, he wouldn't know that these Cham that he had co-arrested had been killed. I think that is a fair question.
Witness, I would like to tell you, Mr. Counsel, I learned the information from the truth. It is not my imagination, or it's not the information that I learned from nowhere. Moon and I was a close friend. We knew each other for quite a long time at Otakun Pagoda. From what I heard, Moon was engaging in the killing of Cham people because he was one member within the security guard unit. He, in fact, attended the killing. He did not tell me, in an, open manner. He told me secretly that he was one of the members within the security guard unit. He told me at the time in relation to this matter, he told me many things. I can spend 2 days to tell you about the Khmer Rouge time that this information I learned, some I learned from him. Regarding other matters, I may have forgotten because of our memory. I cannot recall everything. For example, if I ate a type of dish 10 days ago, I would not have remembered what I had 10 days ago. So what people said, some are true, because I saw, at the time I saw young people arriving at the village, and for young children, young babies, they could not climb up the stair, and they were thrown or pushed up into the temple at that time. So this is what I can tell you.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Witness, but uh, we are in a court of law, and what I'm trying to find out is what exactly your source of knowledge is in relation to the actual alleged killing of John. You said again it was Moon who told you. Is there any other source of information that would corroborate Moon's telling you of what happened? Anything else other than Moon?
Answer that there are many sources of information I have learned from the cook or the chefs within the compound of the security guard unit. That cook was close to my mother-in-law. He was the godson of my mother-in-law. He would tell to my mother-in-law secretly about some things happen within the pagoda. If the information leaked out to the villagers or public at that time, he would have been killed. Some people did dare to confide things to other people. After the end of the regime in 1979, some people who had known the security guards at the Otrakuan pagoda they confided to other villagers in the country. So the information that I learned from other people after 1979 corroborated with what Moon had told me.
Well, you're exactly saying what the problem is, Mr. Witness, that is post-79 information. What I'm interested in is finding sources of information who, like you said, Moon, were also witnesses. So my question is, let me start with the cook, for instance. Do you know, what's the name of the cook? And do you know what he has seen? And to whom did he tell?
Answer. The cook, the female, not the male. I do not know her name. The cook's name was Comrade Min at the security guards complex. That person was the goddaughter of my mother-in-law. Sometimes my mother-in-law and the cook would spend time together, and she confided things to my mother-in-law and warned my mother-in-law not to reveal what she had told my mother-in-law. Otherwise, that cook would be arrested by the guards.
And did this cook confide in your godmother-in-law or mother-in-law at the time when it happened in 77 or after 79?
Answer. Regarding the cook, after 1979, she confided things in my mother-in-law, and she also confided things in my mother-in-law in the regime. Yat was also another cook. She survived until today, and she may have known about what happened at Otakun Pagoda.
And are they still alive today?
Regarding Win, I have no idea whether she's still alive or not. However, Yat, she is living currently at Pretrobo village, Stray Santo district. She is living at the moment.
When Moon told you what had happened with the charm that you said you helped arrest, did you tell your wife what you had heard from Moon the same day or the next day?
Answer. Moon told me, confided in me. We, for example, as a husband and wife, I have told my wife that Cham people who had been arrested the other day were all killed. In fact, Cham people were killed on that night. I can vouch for this information that those Cham people had been killed during the night. Although I did not witness the incident, I can vouch for that fact that they were all killed, and I learned from Moon about rapes of Cham women and also rape of new people. Those women were stripped of their clothes and raped afterwards. So I learned almost everything from Moon and from I learned everything from Moon. So as I said earlier, I can spend 2 days to elaborate and describe all what happened in the regime to you.
But my question was, Mr. Witness, when Moon told you something, did you then subsequently tell your wife about what Moon had told you? Something like, what Moon told me this or Moon told me that, at around the same time. Do you remember any of this?
Answer. As I told you, generally speaking, we as wife and husband confide in each other because some Cham people were working with my wife during that period, and after those Cham people had been arrested, I also told my wife about rest of Cham people, for example, Matt, who was arrested, and my wife asked me how could I learn the information, and I told her that Moon, my colleague, who was a security guard, told me about that incident. Sometime I was invited inside the temple, but I did not dare to go inside. I only met Moon, at the outside compound of that pagoda.
I will ask it very simply. When Moon told you Cham people had been killed, did you then subsequently, the same day or the next day, tell your wife?
After the event of killing, I would tell my wife about that incident. Usually, I learned about the killing the next day, and I would tell my wife that Cham people had been killed the previous day. For example, I told my my wife, that mom, and him, son or daughter, could plea the killing. Matt and the other individual had not yet married with one another. They pled at that time. They were engaged already. Cham people were also living in the Angkor Ban, and these people were taken into the pagoda and killed. I cannot tell you how many Cham people living in Angkor Ban, but I could say there were many of them.
Is your wife still alive, Mr. Witness?
Answer. She passed away in 1981.
Do you know whether Moon only told you, or did Moon also tell others as to things that he said he saw?
Answer. I do not know whether Moon told others about the events. Although he confided things in other people, I would not have known. Regarding my relationship and Moon, I at one time was talking to Moon, but not in an open atmosphere, secretly, I would say.
Earlier, Mr. Witness, you were asked by the prosecution about the alleged number of people being killed, and you were asked about a figure of corpses that had been found in pits, and the number of 30,000 was mentioned. And then you said, well, that is exaggerated. I think it were 15,000. Did I summarize that correctly?
Answer. Regarding the people who had been taken away and killed, based on the documents at the Stupta, the figure was written down as 30,000, 35,000 rather. During the time after 1979, I was about 30 years old. And as I told you earlier, we human beings have to tell the truth, tell what that we have seen and heard. I have been living in my village. I was engaged in the research and also writing down what happened in the regime. Yes, I noticed the figure of 35,000 was mentioned, but I do not know how that figure came into the document. It is their right to agree with which figure. To my estimates, the people who died at that time maybe around 20,000 or a bit lower than that.
Well, we might get back to that one. Let me read to you your interview notes, or your interview, sorry, with the prosecution, E3/5302, and more particularly the excerpt from English ERN page 00210489, Khmer 00635178, and French 006239192. And here you say, quote, Moon told me in 78 that approximately 30,000 people had been killed at Otra Kun, unquote. So it seems that the information about 30,000 people is coming from that same Moon. Is that correct?
Answer. Regarding the figure Moon told me, he never told me about the figure of 20,000 or 30,000. Moon had never told me about the figure. I learned the figure from the wall at the stupa, and I heard about the figure from one another that the people dead could reach the number of 30 or 35,000. There was no, accurate document stating about the figure, and it is the estimates from everyone.
I was quoting you from a document which is in this room a bit unusual. It's interview notes from the prosecution, and I don't really see any explanation of how it went. But it says here that it was Moon who told you. You said that approximately 30,000 people had been killed at Wat Otrakun. So that's not correct. Moon never said that to you in '78.
Answer. In 1978, Moon and I did not discuss the figure as stated. I did not communicate with Moon about the figure or about the number of people who had been killed, but we actually talked to each other about the killing. I never discussed with Moon about the figures suggested in that document.
Now let us talk a little bit about Moon. You said he was himself involved in killing. Was he also himself involved in the killing of those Cham?
Answer. Regarding the discussion of the killing of Cham people, Moon was engaged in the killing of Cham people and also the new people and the 17 April people. He was the one who was engaged in the killing of those people.
But it was my it was my understanding that Moon was a palm tree climber like you. Is that correct?
Answer. Yes. He was the climber of the sugar palm tree. Usually his work was at night time, not during the daytime.
So can you explain to me, or did he tell you maybe, how he, as a, I suppose, ordinary palm tree climber, became one of the major killers of the pagoda?
Answer. Let me clarify for you, Mr. Counsel. During Pol Pot time, everyone, including me, had a different task to do. Sometimes I was assigned to go fishing, and on some other occasion I was asked to go and grow vegetable or climb the sugar palm trees. Moon was part of the security guard unit. However, he knew how to make the palm sugar. So he was assigned to climb up the sugar palm tree at night time, and during the daytime his assignment was a security guard at Otokun Pagoda. Because he knew how to climb up the sugar palm trees, he received additional assignment on top of security guard tasks. and sometime he was assigned to bring in the people into the temple or brought the people to certain places. So once again, I would like to correct. Muan was assigned to, to climb up the sugar palm tree and also to work as a guard.
But a guard is something else than somebody who's actually doing killing. So was he, in addition to a palm tree climber, not only a guard but also a killer? Is that what you're saying?
President, please wait, Mr. Witness. You may not proceed, Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
I think this question is leading. Security guards have multiple tasks. They didn't have the position titled killer at these security offices. So I think counsel's question is misstating the evidence.
I'm not sure that we had any evidence already on this Wat Otrakun, Mr. President. He's the first witness, I think, to actually speak about it, at least about who was inside. So I think my question is fair, but I will rephrase. Is it your testimony, Mr. Witness, that Moon was not only a palm tree climber, a security guard, but also a security guard who killed people?
Answer, yes. Muir was not only palm tree climber. At first, he was a member within security guard unit at Old Dragoon Pagoda. During the regime, one who knew about how to fish, he or she would be assigned to go fishing, and this individual would be reassigned back to normal tasks at night time. This applies to everyone during that time. Security guards' eyes were usually red because they drink the wine with the gallbladder inside. And for those who did not know, security guards or Muan may have felt afraid of them because their eyes look rather red.
Did Moon's own eyes look red when he told you things?
Answer, yes. His eyes looked rather red, like a drunkard. Because I knew him, I felt okay, but if I did not know Muan, I would have felt afraid of him because of his facial expression and eyes.
Do you remember whether Moon was always drunk or only sometimes?
No, he was not drunk. However, his eyes looked red, and his eyes were different from ours. And at one point, he asked me whether I knew and wanted to drink a wine which was made from pure wine mixed with human gallbladder. However, he mentioned it to me secretly, not in public.
Just to be sure, the red eyes of Moon was because he drank too much palm juice. Is that my understanding?
It is very difficult for me to explain to you about the apparent red eyes look because I did not drink. However, people who involved in the killing were encouraged to drink my wine mixed with human gallbladder so that they would feel brave.
Is my understanding correct that there were 2 other members in the palm tree climbing unit?
Among the members, the 4-man group of palm tree climbings, all are still alive.
And did Moon only confide in you, or did he also confide in the other 2 palm tree climb unit members?
I do not know whether he spoke to the other members. However, the other climbers did not climb the palm trees around the compound of the pagoda. I was assigned to climb 5 palm trees situated at the vicinity of the pagoda compound, while others were assigned to climb at the palm trees far from the pagoda compound. And as for Moon was assigned to climb a separate row of palm trees not far from where I climbed. And in fact, the trees that Moon climbed was the one that I used to climb before, but they requested to have 3 palm trees for the people working within the premises of the pagoda, and actually my unit chief agreed to give those 3 palm trees to the security forces.
Were the other 2 members of your palm tree climbing unit also at the same time security guards? Or was only Moon a security guard?
As for the other climbers, President interrupts, and the Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Yes, Mr. President, I don't think counsel has asked this, and I think he's making an assumption based on his interview. Moon was not considered one of the 4 members of his unit. He identifies the other 3 members, so I think the assumption that counsel is making is incorrect, and perhaps he should clarify that with the witness. That Moon was part of the 4-person climbing unit that the witness has talked about.
I think I wrote that down actually as his testimony today, but I'm happy to verify. Mr. Witness, you spoke about a palm tree unit of 4 men, you, 2 others, and was the 4th one Moon himself?
I have actually stated that Moon was part of the security force, but for us, the civilians, there were 4 of us in a team who were assigned to climb the palm trees, and we did not involve in any of the security work. And Moon, he was a palm tree climber within the security force, separate from us, the civilian group. As I said, I was a civilian and I did not work for the security force.
Okay, I understand now. Were there other palm tree units in addition to your unit of 4?
Yes, there were. However, in my Sambumiko or Sambumike village, it was subdivided into two, the upper part and the lower part. And I was part of the lower Sambumi village. And there was another palm tree climbing unit within the upper part of the Sambumi village. And that team composed of 3 to 4 men as well. But they climbed different palm trees, and the palm trees that they climbed were about 500 meters from where we climbed.
And do you know whether Moon confided in those other palm tree climbers as to what happened at Wat Otrakun?
President witness, you do not need to respond to this. It is repetitive, and you have responded at least twice.
I was talking about another unit, Mr. President. I will move on.
President witness, you do not need to respond to that question since it is repetitive.
Okay. One last question on this topic then, Mr. Witness. Can you explain why it was you of the palm tree climbers that Moon confided in?
Allow me to clarify the matter. Moon told me those things, and where we worked, no civilians were allowed to trespass. For that reason, Moon spoke to me. No civilians were allowed to trespass the area, and some villagers did not even dare to walk within that vicinity. And as I said, he spoke to me because I climbed palm trees not far from where he climbed. And usually, sometimes when we rested, then we chit-chatted. And sometimes I wanted to know what was going on inside, and I asked him questions. And because we were friends, he would not mind me asking him questions. But allow me to clarify, I never entered or involved with the security affairs. Even sometimes Moon asked me to enter the compound, but I did not dare to enter.
Was Moon ever arrested himself or detained himself for a while?
No, Moon was not arrested. He was part of the district security force since he was in Kyaw village. As for some ordinary members of the security force like Moon, they were not the subject of killing. Only the chiefs were arrested and killed. But the members were not the target, and that happened also at the commune level, the chief of the Sangkat or the chief of the commune was arrested and killed, but militia members were not killed, and later on they were used.
Let me now go back to that day of the arrest of the many Cham. Did Moon tell you who was involved in the killing besides himself? Did he give you any names of fellow security people who were involved in the alleged killing?
I think I responded to this kind of question already. It was not the security force who actually went out to make the arrest. It was actually the long-sought group which was established in 1977 and who themselves are directly involved in going out and arrested people. As for the security force, they were at the base or at the detention center to receive and to detain those people. The long-sought group members were the one who actually made the arrest.
Maybe something went wrong in the translation, Mr. Witness, but my question was, did Moon tell you the names of the people who were involved in the killing, not the arrest, but the killing of the Cham? You said Moon was involved, but did Moon tell you who else participated?
I can respond to part of your question. There were many members of the security forces involved in the event. Some members were young, namely 15 years old or 20 years old. As for the executioners, they were actually competing one amongst one another, and if they killed more, then they will be selected to be in charge of a unit, for instance. And there was a case that I heard that within an hour, one young member who was about 20 years old actually killed 70 people, and that was the record. And the killing took place inside the pagoda compound and along the main road. And for those who killed people along the main road were pretty young. They were 15 years old, for example, and when they were carrying guns, the gun nozzles actually touched the ground. And as for the security force members, I knew Moon and Bot and another one at the Prekabai village, but I cannot recall the name. Bot was deputy of Horn, but later on he was arrested and killed by Horn. And rather, Bot was assigned to replace Horn later on, and he was spared his life so that he could provide statistics of the residents in the area. And after Kun, the security chief was killed. Bot was killed, and I asked Moon about the killing of Bot, and he said Horn had a love affair with a woman who was a daughter of a former minister, and actually I saw her. She was beautiful. Da was a younger brother of that woman, and she had another elder sister by the name of Dat. And They were all nice looking, and the three had been arrested and brought to Otakun Pagoda, and both fell in love with that woman. And Horn knew about it, since Horn also fell in love with the same woman, so Horn killed both. And as I told you, Bot and Moon were the two members of the security force that I knew, and I did not know the rest, and some of them were pretty young. As I said, some of them were competing to kill more people per hour, and one reached a record of killing 70 people in an hour.
I know, Mr. Witness, you have been telling the story before to the investigators. Your sole source of this being Moon. But did Moon give you names of security guards other than Bot who are still alive today and who could potentially confirm what Moon has described?
Moon did not tell me about the names of those killers.
Let me ask the question a bit broader, Mr. Witness. Did Moon give you any names of anybody who worked in Wat Otrakun who are still alive today and who could potentially confirm what Moon said he saw that night?
As for the killers who were members of the security force at the Otrakun, I cannot say whether they are still alive or not, because when the regime fell, they all ran back to their native villages. And as for the names, as I just told you, I do not know their names. And during the regime, they did not actually use their real names, they used aliases. For example, Tatuj was an alias for Koitun, and nobody knew Koitun was. This is just an example for you. And if I were to know their real names, then I probably could know where they are, if they are still alive.
Very well. I will move on to another topic now, Mr. Witness. You said you were involved in the arrest of the Cham from your commune. I'm not sure if I understand why you were asked to assist in the arrest. Did they tell you why? Were they, for instance, short of manpower? What was it that made guarders decide to ask you to help?
As for the arrest of the Cham people, I did not involved in the arrest. I did not even know why I was assigned to go with them. At that time, they said you, the climbers group, had to go to the main road. And only after the Cham people were arrested and brought to the main road, then I realized that they were being arrested, and they were being arrested by members of the longsword group. And I was there to guard them and not to allow them to enter the main road. And they were there at the north part of the road, and their direction was to gather all those Cham people and lead them to the Otrakun Pagoda. I was rather surprised, and my tea almost failed because I was so pity for the Cham people. They did not realize that they were the subject of the arrest, and some of them were arrested while they were having dinner or while they were having a bath. They did not even have a chance to change their dirty clothes, and they were arrested. And I witnessed that, but I did not involved in the arrest. And of course, at that time, we as civilians, if we were instructed to go and do anything, we would follow the instructions. But personally, if I was ordered to kill people, no, I would not do it. But at that time, I was ordered to stand guard of those Cham people who had been arrested.
Did you have a gun at the time?
Of course not. I was barehand. I was not even allowed to carry a knife that I used to climb the palm tree. So I went along with them to the main road with my bare hands, and we were rather wondering why we were being asked to go with them to the main road, as they didn't tell us that they were going to conduct the arrest of the Cham people at all.
You're actually asking my question already, Mr. Witness, because I was asking myself the same thing. Why did they need you? You didn't have a gun. You weren't instructed. What were you doing? What were you told to do?
In the regime, people were so afraid of the authority. Even the members of the long sword group didn't carry any weapons. They had swords and knives. And if the Cham people were to unite together, the situation could be different. Even I myself, if I was ordered to raise my hand for them to tie them up, then I would do the same. We just feel so afraid of them. And those people did not carry weapons, but they had swords.
But what were you asked to do? What did you do? Did you...
I did not do anything. I was standing there. I was told, "Comrade, you stand there." And I asked him back, "Why?" And he said, "Just stand there to watch and not allow the Cham people to run through the riverside." But none of the Cham attempted to run. And when they were instructed to walk, they just simply walked. By that time, if some of them were to flee, then they would be successful, as the night was about to get dark, and the security force members were actually leading them, and I was walking behind, and in the middle part of the queue, nobody guarded them, and if some of them decided to flee, they would be successful. But none ever attempted to do so.
And what were you doing? You were just walking along with the group? Or did you do something?
I have responded repeatedly that I was not involved in any other matters besides climbing palm trees and fishing. I did not involved in the regime of genocide. Generally speaking, during the Khmer Rouge regime, if you knew how to read, you would not be used by the regime authority. They only used those illiterate people. And at that time, I was considered a student who was knowledgeable, so I was not used.
Now that you mention it, what was the position of your father after 1979? Was he involved in setting up the memorial site and the stupa, etc.?
From 1979, my father did not have any real position, but he liked gathering those skeleton remains and took care of schools, and that was what he did.
Fine, I'll get back to that. You said that the men of the group were handcuffed. Who was it that did that? Who cuffed the men of that group?
I did not say that those arrested were handcuffed. What I said was that those detainees in the temple were shackled. The Cham people who were arrested and before they were ordered to enter the temple compound, the men were beaten once with a metal bar. As for the Cham women, they were not beaten, and that's what I saw. As for the Cham young children who could not walk up the stairs, they were thrown or pushed into the temple. And once they were in the temple, their ankles were shackled and they were not cuffed at all. There were no handcuffs. However, there were shackles, and the shackles were used and people were detained in a shackle in a row of 30 to 40.
So, is my understanding correct then that before the whole group went into the temple, nobody was cuffed?
Among the Cham people who were sent to the pagoda, none was tied up or handcuffed. They simply followed those people. They simply walked and followed them.
You said that when the men entered the temple, each and one of them were beaten by with a metal bar. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's what I saw before the men were ordered to enter to the temple. Each one of them was beaten with a metal bar. Only the men were beaten and not the young children.
And when the first man was beaten, did the other Cham men see that just like you? Were they able to observe this beating as well?
When all of the Cham people entered the pagoda compound, they were surrounded by the security force members, and for that reason none of them could escape. And of course The Cham people who were behind the queue of the man or the one who was bitten saw what happened, but none reacted. As for Cham women, they were not bitten, and they were pushed inside the temple. There was no proper lighting. There was only kerosene lamp.
Let me go back to the beginning of their arrests. Is it correct when I say to you that if the women or children had decided not to follow their respective men, they wouldn't have been arrested? In other words, only the men were arrested and the women and children as well, but only because they followed their men?
Answer. It is true. When after husband had been arrested, family members would also be arrested. Women were too weak to resist. During Pol Pot time, there was not enough food for everyone to eat, so we were weak in terms of our physical strength. We went to work because we were all afraid of being killed. Since we were weak, we were not able to resist them. We were skinny and we had big kneecaps. Whenever we had, a fish, we would be very happy.
My question was concrete. Do you know of men being arrested that day who were not followed by their wives or children?
Answer. No. When there were arrests made, the whole family members were also arrested together with the spouse or the husband. The older Jam people in the families were also arrested.
Can you give us one name of Cham man who you saw was arrested?
Answer. Yes, I can give you some names, but many of them passed away already. I know many names. Since some of them had passed away already, I don't think it is beneficial for you to get the name. Chu Man were among the fisher folks during the regime, and for Cham people, the name Mans were used by different Cham people within the village. So there was not only man, there were many man. Chin, Rin, Man, so they were all members within the fish folks. It has been 20 or 30 years from that time, so I think it's very difficult to identify those people. Even our friends who have been away from us for 20 days, we would have not remember all of them.
Let me ask the question differently. Can you give me one name of a Cham man who you saw in that group, together with the name of his wife and his possible children? Can you describe one family to me?
Answer. Yes, I can tell you one name, the Jam husband who had been arrested. I do not know uh, the wife's name, Mok. And there was also an individual by the name Rin, the head of the family.
Let's start with Rin. Was Rin the same family as Mok, you said? Or were these two different families?
Not Mok. I did not say Mok.
Let's start with Rin. Did you see Rin walking in that group?
Answer. When Jam people had been arrested, I noticed he was in the group. My house was close to his. And after Jam people had been arrested and placed in the groups, he was among the group. And I did not know exactly where he was at that time. As I told you, his house was close to my people's house at that time.
Was Rin accompanied by his wife and his children?
Answer. I have told you repeatedly, all members within the family would be arrested. Young children, baby, older people, everyone from within the family were arrested.
Well, I'm not sure if the word arrest is a good word now, but did you see the actual arrest of Rin? Did you see Rin being taken out of his house?
Answer. I witnessed that. I can vouch for that. Rin was a Jam person. He was within the fisher folk group. Jam person would be included in the fishing group together with Khmer people. I was on the boat with him. While he was being arrested, I was assigned to climb up the sugar palm tree. During that time, he told me where would he be invited to. I replied that I did not know at that time. During that time, I did not realize that he was arrested and sent to the pagoda. After he had been walked past the kitchen, I understood that he was taken into the pagoda. If uh, if I, if you asked me back during that period, I could draw a picture of him and what happened to him. Rin's house was close to the fence of the pagoda, and his house is still standing today. You can go and see. And Jam people later on were transferred to live in Sambumia. President, thank you. It is now time for the break. The chamber will take a short break from now until 3 p.m. Court officer, please find a proper room for this witness during the break time, and please invite him back into the courtroom at 3 p.m. The court is now in recess.